Joined now by the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and their Offside Sports vertical. You know him as Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter. Rob Williams back here with Sekeres and Price. Rob, how are we doing today?
Doing great, guys. Buzzing after last night's game. We saw a goal, preseason goal, first preseason goal of the year. Maybe we'll see an even strength goal next game.
Preseason single point. Huge.
Those are valuable points.
More on the game here in a second, but first, Rob, the Roberto Luongo Kirk McLean debate has raged again this week, and probably for the penultimate time. I would think that once Roberto is honored in the Ring of Honor in December when the Panthers come through town, that'll probably lay it to rest. But even John Shorthouse, as you note, mentioned it on the broadcast. So we're asking on our Bodog poll question today: if the Canucks had retired Roberto Luongo's number one, would that be unfair to Kirk McLean?
Absolutely not. I'm like blown away that, like, why is Kirk McLean, why is his name getting brought up? Like, that fact alone just sort of baffles me, because then now we've got people online going, well, McLean didn't do this and he didn't do that, and he actually wasn't that good, and this and that, and it's like, okay, we don't need, I think it's unfortunate now that people are poking holes in, a legend of the franchise, which Kirk McLean is, absolutely. But I mean, come on. Like, we're talking about Kirk McLean, who had the, great moments in '94. He was nominated for Vezina. Like, he had an excellent Canucks career, but he was not Roberto Luongo. Like, let's not confuse this. Like, Roberto Luongo was one of the best goaltenders of his generation. You cannot say that about Kirk McLean. Luongo was regularly picked for Team Canada. I don't recall, maybe McLean was early in his career for a World Championship or something, but he was not in the conversation for Canada Cups and the World Cup when it came after. Like, this is just a different level of goaltender and of a player, and then the other thing is, like, McLean having his number retired, that was never a consideration. Like, that was never. It's not like we've been debating that for years here. Like, he's in the Ring of Honor, and that's perfect. Like, he's the perfect guy for a Ring of Honor because he was excellent on the ice and great in the community. So, like, I just don't, just because he's shared the same number, like, it's not a slap in the face to McLean if Luongo gets his number retired.
So here's what I agree with you, but here's what I would say in rebuttal, and here's what I think others would say, and particularly some people at Rogers Arena. Kirk McLean made Vancouver his home after his playing career. He wasn't a career Canuck, but he came back and made Vancouver his home, even though he's a Toronto guy. He has been a club ambassador. He has been a valued member of the community, and those sorts of criteria are considered in these post-playing career honors. Look no further than Stan Smeel, who, of course, not only stayed and worked for the club, but has become, effectively the walking, talking institutional history.
But in both cases, much of that is after the fact. Like, we didn't know when Kirk's number was retired.
But I think what that crowd would say is Roberto chose to make the Florida Panthers his forever team.
So, like, if let's say, for argument's sake, let's say Luongo had not worn one and he wore 31, would that group be saying, okay, yeah, retire 31? Like, is that the difference
possible.
here?
Yeah. It is possible, Rob. Yeah.
I think it's complete nonsense. I think that crowd just doesn't think that Luongo's number deserves to be retired. And that's a defensible argument, right? Like, I get that argument. There are reasons where you can say, okay, the standard needs to be higher. It would be a new standard, though. Like, let's not kid ourselves with the guys that are already up in the rafters. It would be a new standard. Like, the Canucks having a player in the Hockey Hall of Fame who had his best years in Vancouver and took them to new heights. Let's be honest, right? Like, this was an outstanding goaltender, and to not put his number in the rafters, that's a new standard for the Canucks, because the previous standard that would have put him up there. So
that's it.
I guess I just think it's the McLean part of the I have time for the debate. The McLean addition to the debate, I think, is just like lose my mind at that. I just don't understand that part.
You're quite right. It's a new standard because they have 4 Hockey Hall of Famers. 3 of them have retired numbers. One of them had his number retired after he was inducted, or at least elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So there's no question that the standard is different. There's no question the standard is shifting. And what I would say about all of that is, while it may not make sense to some, while it may not be symmetrical, clubs are allowed to celebrate their history as they see fit. And this is how the current governors of the Vancouver Canucks have seen fit.
Well, of course, they make the final say, but you also hope
you don't have to be a slave to consistency here, much as many would like consistency.
Well, no, that's exactly it. But I mean, the Montreal Canadiens, of course, have a ton of retired numbers.
And a lot of them recently, Blake. At one time, it was 7 retired numbers, and the standard wasn't even get to the Hall of Fame. It was being a great Hall of Famer.
How many cups you got? How many cups you got?
Hall of Famers.
But, no, my
and
point
they
is,
decided, you know what? This is stupid. Ken Dryden belongs in the rafters. Patrick Roy belongs in the rafters. And so you started seeing Bob Gainey and these sorts of
doubles.
guys.
We started to see doubles, right? Like Dickie Moore and Yvonne Cornway both were 12. They're both retired.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have some precedent in the National Hockey League where, you know, one number can be honored for more than one player. So that is available to the Vancouver Canucks. It wouldn't be crazy.
I just think if they had retired one, there would have been far less debate about this. Like, it would have been just, maybe some people would have groaned, but it would have been kind of like, you know, Marcus Naslund was kind of a borderline pick. Like, I think there's a lot of people that think that Naslund's number shouldn't have been retired at the time, but people just sort of, they kind of groaned quickly or maybe had a quick debate, but people moved on quickly and got to celebrate him. And I remember that night. It was a fantastic night. And I think that, you know, with Luongo, they had an opportunity to really create a really special moment. It'll be, you know, special lowercase s, you know, for Ring of Honor. But I think they had a chance to do something really special for Luongo, and they've decided against it. And I guess I do get the argument of like, okay, well, you know, what standard are you having here? I guess the way I think of it is like, if the Canucks start winning cups and they've got all these other guys that they need to put in and they're running out of numbers, like, what a great problem to have. Like, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. I would love to have that problem.
So
but the other thing that I think about this topic, guys, is like, it's somewhat perfect for how polarizing Luongo was throughout his entire career.
Yeah.
That in retirement, it's like he's part of this great debate once again, you know, about what to do with him. So in some ways, it's pretty appropriate.
That's a great shout, Rob, because I can remember on the day he was traded and we were doing a show, we had half the audience going, what the hell are they doing? I cannot believe they've traded Roberto's, particularly since they just traded Corey Schneider in the recent past. And then the other half were going, he doesn't want to be here. Glad he's gone. Let's get him the hell out of town. Great trade. This Markstrom kid might be something.
I threw this out on social media, guys. And you know, this is all about clicks these days. It's all about eyeballs. It's all about creating stir. What if the Vancouver Canucks surprised him on this night and it ended up being a jersey retirement? Can you imagine how epic that would be? Ooh, because that's an extra honor. Not only, and if there's any guy that could roll with it, that would be, I think, fine with sort of that. I mean, imagine the video of that.
And Blake, get Kirk on the ice with them to sort of make it okay.
It's okay with me.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, can you imagine that moment? I mean,
love it.
They'd lead Sports Center in the U.S. for God's sakes with that sort of a thing.
I wonder. I'm just wondering about like how long they'd have to like delay the game to start, or like just kind of secretly tell everyone to arrive early for the. I mean,
how much longer is a retirement ceremony from this ceremony? You know, I don't know. 5 more minutes.
You know, every once in a while, Blake Price, not bad.
Just saying,
not bad. It's kind of like his idea for a winter classic in Mystery Alaska or at Whistler.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done here? Do we want to continue on?
No, we're good.
Okay.
When are they going to solidify lines here? Do you think, Rob? Do you think people at this early junction are frustrated by the? To me, I'm not hearing that yet. But you tell me.
Here's my thoughts on preseason, and I know a lot of this doesn't matter, and we probably make too much of it because we got training camp and preseason. We got like a month to just kind of spitball things, and we need something to talk about, right? My general theory on preseason is teams often experiment way too much, and I think that's the case in this training camp right now. For me, like, what is Cole McWard doing out with Quinn Hughes? Like, the Canucks need to find Quinn Hughes a partner. I know he's a right shot, but like, does anybody truly believe that Cole McWard is going to step into, never mind just stepping into the NHL, like that's going to be a challenge in itself, to step into the NHL and then be paired with Quinn Hughes playing big minutes, key minutes against top competition? That's way too much, way too soon. Like, why Noah Juleson with Hughes on the first day of camp? Like, that made no sense to me at all. I know there's not a lot of great right shot options out there, but like, let's get serious about finding Quinn Hughes a partner. So like, that's, for me, that's something right now where, there's so much experimentation. Like, look at the power play. They're making huge changes to their power play with all the movement. We've got to see it in a game situation, and they don't have their entire power play one group together. Like, to me, like, what are we doing here? Like, they need to find chemistry. They need to get these things ironed out. This is the time for it. And to me, I think they're doing too much experimentation. I'm sure they've got time. Like, they'll do this probably like the last 2 or 3 preseason games. But like, for me, I would just say, like, let's go, like, with the things you already know. Let's get those things gelled as much as possible well before the season starts.
Let me take that on for a second, because for the most part, I agree with you. And I also, raised eyebrow on Juleson and McWard again. But Rob, do they really need to find him a partner, or is he just going to play so much more than any other defenseman? It's going to be Hughes and committee, Hughes and company, basically, all season long, and we'll worry about getting him a more solidified right shot defense partner. Maybe it's Tom Wielander, or maybe it's somebody they pick up in free agency or via trade for next year.
As great as Hughes is, and I really like him as a player, like having chemistry, having someone that you play with and rely on, I think that's really important. I don't think he's good enough to like just throw anyone over the boards with him. I think that puts him in a tough spot, and I think you want to put him in the best spot to succeed. Now, getting back to this like experimentation, like, I don't mind some experiments, like the ones that have a chance to work, like Höglander on the first line. I don't know if that's going to be like the long-term fit for their first line. I suspect maybe not. That might be a little bit too much for Höglander right now, but worth a shot, right? Like, he's shown something at the NHL level before. Same thing with Podkolzin, like that. I don't know if that's going to work, but like, I'm fine with them trying those kinds of things. That kind of experimentation I'm fine with. But the like throwing guys that everyone has penciled for the AHL into key spots, like in the preseason. I know it's only preseason, but let's try to find something here.
Yeah. I would suspect you'll see more solidified stuff after tonight. Yeah, I think once you get home on Saturday to play your first home preseason game and into next week, I think you'll see something that's a little more representative of opening night NHL. It's
kind of crazy that the penultimate preseason game is in Abbotsford. Like, that's a dress rehearsal game, and they're giving it to Abbotsford.
You were struck by Elias Pettersson in the faceoff dot last night, Rob.
80% on the draws, which, like, where did this come from? Right? Like, he's been a career 43% guy in the faceoff dot. Hasn't had any season where he came close to 50%. That's been, a weak spot in his game. And to come out, it's just one game, it's just preseason. But to come out and be 80% in the draws, and not against AHL guys, like this is against McDavid and Draisaitl, and we all know how Brandon Sutter is in the faceoff dot. To come out and be 80% win all those draws against that kind of a competition, I thought it was very impressive. And if you looked at, I was looking at like Draisaitl was there cheating off the draw, slashing his stick before before the puck is dropped, and doing like, I'm sure that maybe they weren't 100% focused on those draws, but like, I think they when they step into the circle, they try to win the draws. So for Pettersson to be like that against those guys, 80%. That's something I think to watch going forward. Like, is Pettersson's or his numbers going to be way higher in the dot? And I think that would be
healthy wrist.
Yeah,
he's stronger. He looks like a man now. I think both of those factors probably weigh into that.
Absolutely. And I'd be curious to know if he's been somehow working on this in the summer. Like, is he? Does he have a secret face-off coach? I don't know.
Well, as Jeff was saying on Rinkwide last night, it's very important that he does that, because he does have to be a centerman and be a matchup centerman going forward.
Yeah.
So it's a very good sign, and we'll see if it continues here as the preseason moves along. Rob, marvelous stuff today. Thank you for this. We will catch up next week.
Thank you.
This clip brought to you by LiUNA 1611, BC Laborers Union. Check out 1611.ca.